My name is Zoe, and I'm a 31-year-old. Mary, my older sister, moved out 3 years ago after getting married, so my parents and I no longer live together. Running an online business allows me to work from home. When I was in middle school, my grandfather surprised me with a computer for my birthday, and I immediately became fascinated with app development. I was pleasantly surprised by how successful it was. Unfortunately, my grandpa died 4 years ago. He shared our home and was the one person to whom I felt an overwhelming sense of closeness. I withdrew emotionally after his death. When my parents are at work, I find that I have plenty of time to myself to get things done in peace and quiet. They simply assume I spend my days playing games because they have no idea what I actually do for a living. Mary, my sister, thinks I'm stupid as well. As a child, I frequently went unnoticed since my parents preferred her. Feeling isolated from my family fueled my interest in computers. Nobody took the time to get to know me or spend quality time with me except my grandparents. They gave me a computer when I turned 15, and it was the beginning of my career path. Because my parents had never celebrated my birthday with a present, I was really touched by this. With the passing of my grandparents, I feel as though I no longer belong anywhere else in this house than my room. I don't despise my parents despite their imperfections. Since they brought me up, I do my best to pitch in around the house. My mom knocked on my door one Thursday morning and said, "Zoe, is breakfast ready? Noon is past." "Indeed, it is being considered," I responded. Most of the housework has fallen on me since my grandpa passed away. Since my parents believe I'm usually playing games, they simply accept my tendency to take charge as normal. Everything from cooking to cleaning to laundry and grocery shopping is on me. You saw your dad, didn't you? He left after having breakfast early. Mom said, "Dad's gone out again, huh?" "Yes," I said. Over the past few Saturdays, Dad has begun to depart early. My parents rarely argue, but my dad has a hard time saying no to Mom, so he often departs early to avoid her hectic schedule. This is merely my opinion, as we haven't had any meaningful communication since middle school. Mom indicated that Mary and her family were planning to visit today at about noon. "Mary's coming?" I inquired, slightly taken aback. "She's your sister, so there's no need to be surprised. You two haven't laid eyes on each other for quite some time, have you?" "It has certainly been some time." I mentioned that I believe this was her first visit home since getting married. Mary hasn't been to our house till recently, despite the fact that she was married 3 years ago and has dined out with Mom and Dad. Our parents traveled to see Mary instead of her returning home while she was pregnant. Something major must be happening for her to show up at this hour. I thought to myself, she must have a good reason to show up, doesn't she? My mind wandered to that. "There is something she wants to discuss," she said. "My mom warned me to make a lovely lunch because she's coming after a long time." "Sure thing," I responded. Meeting my nephew was exciting, however, it did make me a little nervous. On the other hand, Mary had never warmed up to me before. I went to Mom and requested, "Could I get this month's food money?" I noticed I hadn't gotten it yet. "I'm going shopping right now." "Wasn't it your dad who gave it to you?" she said. "He advised me to approach you," I remarked. Mockingly, she scowled. "My belongings are quite sparse. The previous month, I only paid you $100. Here is $50, she said, slapping the cash onto the table. "But I need the full amount this month." I muttered to myself, "You would not be experiencing these problems if you worked correctly. How much longer will you persist in squandering time?" She retorted angrily. I mentioned that I am employed. I attempted to clarify. "Please don't make explanations. I don't care. Playing games for pocket money is all you're doing. You can't even live on your own, so there's no need to talk about working," she remarked with a stern tone. "That's not true," I adamantly continued. "The time has come. It's money that I've given you." She slammed the door shut behind her and stormed off, telling the girl to get the rest from her father. I returned to my task after letting out a long breath. After I located a suitable rest area, I set out to do my shopping. Since Mary was expected to come about that time, I hurried to finish by early afternoon despite feeling anxious the entire time. Upon my return home, I wasted no time getting the kitchen in order as my mom kicked back and watched TV. Just before midday, my dad came back, and the doorbell rang not long after. "Mary, I'm glad you could make it. Drop by any time." All over the house, Mom's upbeat voice resounded. "My return has been announced. Standing here after all this time makes me nostalgic," Mary remarked as she entered. "Mary, it's good to see you again." "The time has passed," I remarked, to which I responded, "Oh, Zoe, you're still here," as she glanced between us. Mary, who I hadn't seen in a long time, was decked out in designer labels from head to toe and sporting heavier makeup than usual for our first encounter. As usual, she gazed at me with an assured grin on her face. Mary proclaimed, "I'm so tired," before she collapsed onto the sofa. My mom was holding my nephew, so I glanced around in the hopes of seeing him. His adorable wide eyes betrayed his natural curiosity. "Tell me what you're gazing at. Get lunch ready and hurry up," Mom remarked with a touch of coldness as soon as she saw me observing my nephew. "Mom, are you still making Zoe do all the housework?" With an air of scorn, Mary inquired. "Sure thing. Since she's going to be spending the whole day playing games in her room, she might as well be useful," Mom said. "I agree with you. Just being here costs money," Mary smiled and said, and they both carried on with their upbeat talk. I made an effort to strike up a casual discussion by inquiring about Mary's marital life. "Do you like married life, Mary?" I spoke cautiously, expressing my understanding that caring for a child and performing chores must be challenging. "I don't do any housework," she said. "Having to do duties like you do every day is something I despise." "What do you mean?" I inquired, taken aback. "We have a housekeeper, so I'm free to do whatever I want," she remarked with an air of superiority. It came to my attention that Mary's spouse is a physician. They were engaged, and Mom and Mary were overjoyed that she was marrying into an affluent family. "Having a housekeeper sounds great. Is your spouse occupied with his job?" "Excuse me," I inquired. "Indeed he is. Emergency calls keep him very busy, even on his days off," she explained. It was good to have a civil discussion, notwithstanding our differences. And just like that, Mary's tone shifted. "You lead a really carefree life. Are you aware of the amount of effort our parents put in?" She interrupted me just as I was going to put the finishing touches on the dish. "What? Could you please clarify what you mean?" My response was bewildered. "Are you still feigning to be employed? She was quite harsh with you, since you should know by now that Mom needs to work more because you aren't self-sufficient. I've informed both you and Mom on numerous occasions. My income from working from home is sufficient to cover my expenses. Rest assured," I reassured them. "If that's the case, you should probably just pack up and go on your own. If you're really making money, it's probably not much more than a few cents here and there, isn't it?" "You've never had to struggle like Mom," she said, unconvinced by my words. She saw me as a helpless brat who was just interested in our parents' money. "Grandpa and Grandma left this house to me, therefore I'm staying here. For me, this place holds countless cherished memories," I responded. "For some reason, I still can't believe you're around here." She expressed her distaste for staying in an old house. "Even though it's an older house, we made certain modifications so Grandpa could move about more easily when we remodeled it for him. I don't find it inconvenient because the kitchen and bathroom were rebuilt and we have better appliances." She may have felt irritated by their ways and hence has no relationship to this area, even though our grandparents adored Mary too. It was the ideal decision for someone like me to marry into a wealthy family. But that's just not going to happen, Mary continued, and Mom couldn't help but join in the laughter. You won't be able to live independently, get married, or even show us grandchildren. You're simply not useful," Mom remarked. "Marriage isn't everything, in my opinion." Attempting to maintain composure, I stated, "I earn my own money, and that's fine with me." "Please just stop saying that and stop being dishonest. Your lies are getting old for Dad, Mom, and me," Mary stated with a chill. That very moment, my nephew began to sob, and my mom gave me a furious look. I turned away from her stare and returned to the kitchen, where I continued to grumpily make lunch in quiet. After realizing there was no need in continuing to explain things to Mary or Mom, I stopped trying. Mary continued to devour all of my made meals despite her criticisms. I had heard she had some urgent business to attend to that night, but she had failed to bring it up before she departed. Having said that, I did observe an oddity in her actions. The rooms on the upper floor, the bathroom, and the kitchen were just a few of the places she continued to search. We had been slowly renovating these areas since she left, so her meticulous scrutiny looked strange. However, she departed silently, leaving me to ponder our future encounter. My mom got up and started talking the following morning while I was preparing breakfast. "Get the house in order and have supper ready for next Thursday. James, Mary, and the kids are on their way. The couple paid us a visit yesterday. What brings them back? Why is her husband also going to be there?" I inquired, taken aback. "You shouldn't be surprised. Remember to keep your calendar available, because Mary mentioned that they have an important matter to discuss, and you too. All I can say is that I'm looking forward to seeing the kids again," Mom said. Anxiety gripped me. It was unexpected that Mary, who hadn't been back since her wedding, would be returning so soon, this time accompanied by her husband. It didn't feel right, and I couldn't understand her true motives. It was already being discussed between Mary and Mom, and I had no idea. "The house is actually in Zoe's name, isn't it? Why did Dad do that?" Mary inquired. She said, "Rest assured, the only way to get Zoe to stay is to treat her like she's a burden. This place should be ours to live in," Mom said. Thursday arrived unannounced due to my overwhelming workload. James, Mary's husband, came to introduce himself before their wedding. It was our last encounter. It was his father who had influenced him to pursue a career in medicine. There was an icy quality to him, despite his good looks. His mother's joy at learning he was the son of a doctor made her welcome him with open arms. However, James had not paid us a visit since then, and we had not seen him until now. I had already laid the table for dinner when my nephew James and Mary came. Since our last encounter 3 years ago, James appeared to have shed a few pounds. Mary trailed behind me as I made my way back to the kitchen. "Did you pick up these side dishes from a supermarket?" inquired her. "I wonder if this food will be good enough for us since we're used to high-quality meals," Mary observed, casting a critical eye on the dishes. "I know it's good because Grandma taught me how to make it," I said gently. For an instant, Mary pretended to be irritated, but she soon concealed her expression and smiled as she began to bring out the dishes. She usually boasted about her child at supper, gushing about how great he was compared to other kids. James remained emotionally detached and scarcely spoke while he partially listened to her tales. "Seeing our adorable child, don't you wish you had another grandchild, Mom?" Mary asked me with an icy expression as she went on. "Yes, we could have had more grandchildren by now, but that's impossible since Zoe's not even married," Mom replied as she looked at me. "Finding a spouse should be your first priority before considering starting a family. If you're not going to leave your room to play games and look for work, how are you going to meet anyone?" The insults were piled on by Mary as she added. I had almost left the table after discreetly finishing my lunch when my mom abruptly stopped me, her voice betraying her wrath. "Will you simply disappear? It's not over yet. Come on, sit down and pay attention. We need to discuss something essential. So let's cut to the chase. So, would you mind getting out of here?" I was taken aback by Mary's abrupt statement. You need to experience independent life for a change. Your parents are sick of having to put up with you. If you remain here, you will never evolve. She went on as if she were genuinely trying to help me by suggesting that I go. You need to realize how much of a disappointment you are, she said. It would be good for you to learn to earn enough to live on your own and understand how hard life can be. Be patient, Mom. Do I really need to keep repeating that I'm self-employed and working to pay my bills? Tell me when you'll believe me. My hands trembled with rage as I responded. Just because you make a little money from your hobbies doesn't mean you're earning a living, the mother said. Nope, I cover all of my own expenses with the money I make. I stated with conviction that I had even paid for all of the home improvements following Grandpa's death. I had paid for the improvements out of my money, and my parents were aware of this. Then Mary grinned. You really believe you're special, aren't you? I thought that was Grandpa's money. Stop pretending like you were unaware. He gave you money before he passed away, right? Shortly before he passed away, Grandpa gave me a bank book. He and Grandma had been saving up for my future, worrying about my well-being after seeing how neglected I was. They probably thought it may be useful to me down the road. How do you even know about that? Astonished, I inquired. I kept the bank book secret from everyone after receiving it from Grandpa. Finding it was a breeze. It was in your drawer, Mary said with a scowl. But the cash card isn't here. I was unable to withdraw any funds. Tell me what makes you think you're capable of doing that. What a relief. Her behavior shocked me, so I spoke up. They were always more accommodating to you, she went on to say. But to think they left money just for you, ignoring the rest of us, that's so unfair. I said, Don't be so disrespectful to Grandpa and Grandma, in a very angry tone. They saved that money because they cared about me. It hit me then why my parents had totally ignored the idea of paying for the renovations. They must have known about the bank book from the beginning and thought I would use it to pay for everything. They thought I would just drain that account for all my expenses. Put the money aside for the moment. Despite Mary's disapproval, she did say that the house now had nice facilities and new appliances because of it. Despite my resentment, I will let it go now that you have it all. She added with a sarcastic expression that Grandpa and Grandma likely knew you'd never be able to support yourself. Was the purpose of her most recent home inspection to verify the quality of these renovations? To put it mildly, she was worried about you since she was your sister. Glaring at her was all I did. She proceeded to her major point after ignoring my expression. She looked at him with pride and said, Actually, James is about to start a new hospital. Despite his serious expression, he didn't seem to mind. What? Unprepared, I inquired. We also intend to relocate here, she went on to say. James has plans to construct a hospital in the area. We would utilize this property as our base because there is plenty of open terrain and not many hospitals nearby. Mary stated matter-of-factly that we need you to leave. However, you cannot unexpectedly insist on that, I argued. Even though the D is in your name, you really ought to give it up for the benefit of your parents. I want it, she said firmly. Why do you get to decide that? Without a doubt, her parents support her, she asserted. They want you out too. Before he went away, Grandpa had moved the house into my name. I remembered this. It now clicked for me why Grandpa had put the house in my name. I had no idea why at first. Mary emphasized that her father was the true leader of the household. Please just depart quietly. The name on the documents is irrelevant. Oh no, my grandparents' house is filled with cherished memories, I responded. Stop acting like such a brat, she yelled out. Everyone here has it tougher because of you. You're nothing more than a parasite. You've had enough. Get out of here, Mary said as if she were about to strike her last blow. So, don't you think you're a bad influence on your nephew? Turning to me, my mother added, Do you really want him to grow up seeing you depend on us for everything? My dad was staring down at his phone the whole time, and James did nothing more than sit quietly and listen. I knew then that they wouldn't pay attention to a word I said. I had to leave this poisonous environment. "All right, then. Go to your room if you want to," I told her. Despite my rage, I forced myself to remain rational while I considered my options. I decided something that night. After Mary's family departed the following morning, I went downstairs to discover that the house remained in a state of disarray from the previous night. My folks hadn't woken up yet. Going to a neighboring cafe, I retrieved my laptop and set out to strategize. My mother's incessant messages and calls requesting that I return to prepare breakfast soon began to ring my phone. Staying concentrated on my strategy, I paid them no mind. I was able to book a moving company the very same day after doing some research. Coming home at a time when I knew my folks would be at the office was my strategy. I felt a mixture of relief and annoyance because the house was a disaster after only a short time without me. A truckload of movers showed up not long after that. One of the movers inquired, "Which items are we taking?" "All the things I purchased," I responded. The movers wasted no time loading up my entire apartment with my possessions, including large equipment like the dishwasher, refrigerator, and microwave, as well as smaller ones like the plates. The house felt weirdly depressing and vacant once they finished. I was no longer interested in being here, even if the house was technically still mine. I felt liberated and assured that I hadn't squandered my grandparents' love and care when I departed. My irate mother called that night. "What is happening? The appliances have all disappeared. Were they taken by you?" "Affirmative, I did," I said. "You wanted me out, so I'm leaving, and I'm taking what I bought with me." "I'm glad you're leaving, but it's not right to take the appliances," she said to me. "Just say no, they belong to me. I purchased them. You bought them with Grandpa's money." "Oh no, I don't know how many times to repeat myself. To me, the inheritance from Grandpa is invaluable. Not gonna touch it. I used my own money to purchase everything." To confirm it, I sent her a photo of my bank book that shows the date. The balance should have been cleared as I had just withdrawn $170. "You're horrible to do this to your own parents." "All right, then. Your appliances are unnecessary for us. We will seek assistance from Mary and her family. Please go out of here as soon as possible. It doesn't matter to me. Under my name alone is that house." Don't be ridiculous. After that, I didn't hear from my mom again. On the inside, I wished James could purchase the entire house, not merely the appliances. Mary got in touch with me earlier than I had anticipated a few days after that. "I hope you're feeling better now, Zoe. Would you mind if we had one more chance to chat?" It was as if she were being extra cautious. Her tone had changed. "So, what's your desire?" "Working keeps me occupied. Get things done quickly." "It seems like trying to kick you out was a mistake, at least to me. Because we are relatives, shouldn't we share a home?" "Now that you've called me a parasite, you're interested in discussing family?" "I strongly disagree." "You guys have moved in already, haven't you?" "Yes, we moved in yesterday, but there have been some problems." "Oh, regarding James, the hospital let him go, didn't it?" "Yes, I am aware. Amazingly, you choose to remain silent about it. How do you know that?" "You'd be surprised at how uninformed I am. The administrative staff at the hospital where James was treated is a friend of mine. She informed me that he was let go due to an extramarital affair. James had an affair with a nurse and managed to get her pregnant, it turns out. At the hospital, the furious woman revealed everything, despite his attempts to persuade her not to have the baby in order to conceal the affair. James was fired by his father, who was worried about the hospital's image. Because James was unable to tell Mary the truth, he invented a lie about constructing a new hospital in order to secure housing. It was shocking to me when I found out about it recently. The husband of the woman is suing him for damages, and he is bankrupt as a result. Moreover, my father has departed from the farm. What happened to Dad? My father allegedly had an affair as well, according to Mary. Just before Mary and her family were set to move in, he departed, leaving behind a message and the divorce papers. My mother apparently got bedridden after reading the note, in which he complained about her. Lauren, you can't just abandon us here, can you? Assist us, will you? Are you sure you've gotten rid of the money Grandpa gave you? What are you saying now? As soon as I inquired, my mother produced a photograph of the bank book. I find it amusing that they finally believe I can support myself when it's convenient for them after all this time of doubting my ability. Depend on me just when it suits you. I will not return. Because of the memories of Grandma and Grandpa that were held in that house, I endured everything. However, now I know that those memories will never leave me. Wait, would you kindly hold on a second? Mary demanded. You, Mom, and Dad have ruined my childhood, therefore I don't feel comfortable asking for my assistance at this time. Plus, you'd better get out of here quick, because the deed is in my name. It was as if my burden had been lifted, and I could finally breathe easier as I spoke these things aloud. Please, Zoe, you're really going to abandon your family like this? Mary and my parents kept trying to get in touch with me, but I ignored them. They persisted for the first 4 months, but then they gave up, and now I can go about my day without interruption. Mary and James allegedly borrowed money to start a hospital, but they're already seeing no patients, likely due to the negative reports created by James's affair partner. The shock of my dad's departure caused my mom to acquire depression, and she is currently hospitalized. I made the decision to sell the house when I moved out and actually followed through with it. Mary and her family were forced to relocate to a neighboring flat after seeing the for sale sign. I no longer care about their struggles. They have bills and no patience. My nephew is innocent, therefore I pray he finds happiness. My job is going swimmingly, and I'm even growing my company. My grandparents have always meant a lot to me, and I pray that I can find a home for the rest of my life. For the rest of my life, I intend to enjoy every moment to the utmost.
Hi there, I'm Janet, a French teacher, and I absolutely love my job. But lately, my life has felt more dramatic than a Molière play. It all began when my brother, Peter, announced he was opening a French-inspired bistro. I was thrilled for him. "Peter, that's fantastic," I exclaimed when he told me. "A French bistro, oh la la. I can already taste the success." Peter just laughed, his eyes twinkling. "Thanks, Pri. I'm nervous, but I can't wait." I jump at the chance to help. "Count me in for anything you need. I could even teach your staff a little French." Imagine how charming they'd be, greeting everyone with a perfect bonjour. As I rattled off menu ideas and marketing tips, I noticed my husband, Nathan, sitting in his armchair, barely listening. "Honey, isn't this exciting?" I nudged him. "Peter's living his dream." Nathan grunted, not looking up from his phone. "Yeah, great." I felt a pang of disappointment. Nathan's real estate career had been struggling lately, and his mood had darkened as a result. Still, I pressed on. "You know the area better than anyone," I suggested gently. "Maybe you could help Peter find some local suppliers." He shrugged, muttering something about being too busy. I sighed but decided not to push further. In the following weeks, I was completely absorbed in helping Peter, spending hours perfecting the menu, right down to the last accent. Peter's pronunciation was improving, and as he read the dishes aloud, coq au vin, ratatouille, tarte tatin, I clapped. "Your customers will feel like they've been transported to Paris." Peter beamed, pulling me into a hug. "I couldn't do this without you, sis." But as Peter's opening day drew closer, Nathan became increasingly withdrawn. He came home late, barely spoke during dinner, and snapped over small things. One night, I decided to confront him. "Nathan, what's going on? You've been so distant." He slammed his fork down. "Nothing's going on. I'm fine." "Is it about Peter's restaurant?" I asked softly. "You know your work is just as important." "Oh, spare me the pep talk," he scoffed. Not everyone can be an overnight success like your precious brother. His words stung, but I held back. Honey, Peter's worked hard to get here, just like you have. Remember that big sale you made last month? You're incredible at what you do. Nathan's expression softened, but a storm still brewed behind his eyes. Little did I know it was about to become a full-blown hurricane. 2 days before the opening, I was in the kitchen, putting the finishing touches on a congratulatory card when Nathan stormed in. "Janet, we need to talk," he said, his voice unnervingly calm. I looked up, forcing a smile. "Sure, honey, what's up?" "We're not going to Peter's restaurant opening." I blinked, sure I'd misheard him. "What? Why not?" "We have a prior engagement," he replied flatly. "A prior engagement?" I searched my memory. "Nathan, we've known about Peter's opening for months. My college buddy's in town. We're having dinner with him and his wife." Something felt off. "You never mentioned this before." "Well, I'm mentioning it now. We're not going. End of discussion." I stood, my temper rising. "No, Nathan, not end of discussion. What's really going on here?" His facade cracked. "What's going on is your brother's stupid restaurant is all you talk about. It's Peter this, Peter that. When was the last time you showed any interest in my career?" "That's not fair," I protested. "I always support you." "Support?" He laughed bitterly. "While I'm busting my ass trying to sell houses in this market, you're playing chef with your golden boy brother." I felt like I'd been slapped. "Nathan, But he wasn't finished. "You want the truth? There is no college buddy. I made it up because I can't stand watching Peter succeed while you're what?" I pressed, my voice softening. "While I'm a failure," he shouted, eyes glistening with unshed tears. Silence filled the kitchen, broken only by the ticking clock. I reached for him, but he jerked away. "You're not a failure," I said quietly. "Nathan, please, let's talk." He shook his head, his expression hardening. "I'm done talking. Here's the deal, Janet. Either you skip Peter's opening and stay with me, or—" My heart pounded. "Or what?" "Or our marriage is over." The words hung in the air like a guillotine blade. I felt dizzy, my stomach churning. "You can't be serious." "Dead serious," Nathan replied coldly. "It's time you chose, Janet, your brother or your husband." And with that, he stormed out, leaving me standing alone in the kitchen, my world suddenly too big and too empty. I sank into a chair, my mind spinning. How had things come to this? I needed to talk to someone who could offer an outside perspective, so I grabbed my phone and called my best friend from college, Olivia. "Liv, can you meet me at Joe's Diner in 20 minutes? It's an emergency." Half an hour later, I was pouring my heart out to Olivia over lukewarm coffee and an untouched slice of apple pie. And now he's given me this ultimatum. I finished, wiping away a stray tear. What am I supposed to do? Olivia reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry you're going through this. But can I be brutally honest with you?" I nodded, bracing myself. "Nathan's behavior is toxic. He's manipulating you, trying to isolate you from your family. That's not love, Janet. That's control." Her words hit me like a ton of bricks. Deep down, I knew she was right, but hearing it said aloud made it real. "But our marriage," I whispered. Olivia shook her head firmly. "A healthy marriage doesn't come with ultimatums, Janet. You need to go to that opening, support your brother, and stand up for yourself." As I left the diner, Olivia's words echoed in my mind. I knew what I had to do, though the thought of confronting Nathan filled me with dread. Still, for the first time in weeks, I felt a spark of strength. Whatever happened next, I wouldn't let anyone dim my light, not even my husband. Back at home, I stood in front of the mirror, smoothing down my dress. My stomach fluttered with nerves, but I squared my shoulders. I was going to Peter's opening, come hell or high water. "Nathan," I called, my voice steadier than I felt. "I'm leaving for the restaurant." A silence followed, broken only by heavy footsteps. Nathan appeared in the doorway, his face a mask of fury. "So that's it. You're choosing him over me." I took a deep breath. "I'm choosing to support my brother on one of the biggest nights of his life. That doesn't mean I'm not choosing you too." Nathan scoffed. "Save it, Janet. You've made your choice." He grabbed his keys and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. I flinched, but I steadied myself. There was no turning back now. At the restaurant, the atmosphere was electric. Peter's dream had come to life in rich shades of deep blue and warm gold. I forced a smile, determined not to let my personal drama cast a shadow over his moment. "Janet," Peter called, waving me over. "You made it." I hugged him tightly. Wouldn't miss it for the world, little brother. As I mingled with the guests, I noticed Peter's business partner, Ethan, acting strangely. His eyes darted around, and he kept checking his phone. Curiosity piqued, I moved a bit closer to where he stood near the kitchen. "Transfer the funds tonight," I overheard him whisper harshly into his phone. "Before that idiot Peter realizes what's happening." My blood ran cold. Embezzlement on opening night? I had to warn Peter, but I couldn't cause a scene. Not yet. For the rest of the evening, I kept a smile plastered on my face, laughing with guests and praising the food, though inside I was a mess of worry. My mind raced between Peter's business, Nathan's ultimatum, and the state of my marriage. Peter caught my eye from across the room, his brow furrowed in concern. He walked over and placed a hand on my arm. "Hey, you okay? You seem, I don't know, distracted." I forced a bright smile. "Me? I'm fine, just taking it all in." "This place is amazing, Peter. I'm so proud of you." He didn't look entirely convinced, but he nodded. "Thanks, sis. I couldn't have done it without you." Guilt gnawed at me. I was just about to tell them everything about Ethan when the restaurant doors suddenly burst open. "Where is she?" A familiar slurred voice bellowed. "Where's my wife?" My heart sank as Nathan stumbled in, clearly drunk, his tie askew and his eyes wild. "Janet," he shouted, spotting me. "There you are, you traitor." Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd as I felt my face flush with humiliation. "Nathan," I hissed, rushing over to him. "What are you doing? You're drunk." He laughed bitterly. "Oh, now you care. Didn't seem like you cared much when you abandoned me for this fancy bistro." Peter appeared at my side, his expression thunderous. "That's enough, Nathan. You need to leave. Now." Nathan sneered. "Or what, pretty boy? You gonna make me?" Before I could blink, Peter had Nathan by the arm, steering him forcefully toward the exit. "Get your hands off me," Nathan yelled, struggling against Peter. As Peter called over his shoulder, "I've got this, stay here," I stood frozen, watching in mortification as he practically dragged Nathan out of the restaurant. The silence that followed was suffocating. Moments later, Ethan sidled up beside me, a look of fox concern on his face. My goodness, what a scene. "Are you all right, Janet?" I turned to him, my embarrassment giving way to a simmering anger. Part of me wanted to confront him about the embezzlement right then and there, but I knew I needed proof first. "I'm fine," I said coolly, brushing him off. "Nothing a glass of wine won't fix." I grabbed a flute of champagne from a passing waiter and caught sight of my reflection in a nearby mirror. My carefully applied makeup was smudged, my hair a little disheveled, but beneath it all, I saw something I hadn't seen in a long time. Determination. This night was far from over, and I had a feeling that Nathan's drunken display would be the least of my problems by morning. When I returned home, exhausted from the night's chaos, I found our apartment in shambles. Furniture was overturned, pictures smashed, clothes thrown everywhere. Nathan's handiwork, no doubt. That was it. I muttered under my breath, grabbing a suitcase. "I'm done." As I packed, my phone rang. It was Peter. "Prith, we need to talk. It's about Ethan." I told him everything I'd overheard, and Peter was stunned but grateful. "You saved the restaurant, sis. Listen, I need someone I can trust. How would you feel about becoming our events coordinator?" I accepted on the spot, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. In the weeks that followed, I threw myself into my new role, balancing it with my teaching. Then came news that Nathan's real estate license had been suspended for unethical practices. A twisted sense of vindication washed over me, but I pushed it aside. I had my own life to focus on now. Months passed. The restaurant thrived, and so did I. I was organizing events, teaching French, and rediscovering myself. Then, one day, Nathan showed up at the restaurant, looking more remorseful than I'd ever seen him. "Janet, please," he pleaded. "I've changed. Give me another chance." I looked at him, really looked at him, and felt nothing. "No, Nathan. We're done. I've moved on, and you should too." As he walked away, I realized how far I'd come. I was surrounded by people who valued and supported me, and I finally found the strength to protect my own light. A year after that fateful opening night, I stood in the bustling restaurant surveying the charity gala I'd organized. Peter appeared at my side, grinning. "You've outdone yourself, Janet. This place wouldn't be the same without you." I smiled, feeling a surge of pride. "Thanks, little brother. We make a good team." As I mingled with guests, I reflected on my journey from a woman torn between toxic loyalty and self-respect to a confident, successful professional living life on her own terms. The road hadn't been easy, but standing there in the warmth of the restaurant, surrounded by good people, I knew one thing for certain. I wouldn't change a single step of the path that led me here. The story has come to an end, but now I have a question for you. If you were in Janet's shoes, would you have given Nathan a second chance after his outbursts at the restaurant opening? Or do you believe that some betrayals are too deep to forgive, even in a marriage? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Hi everyone, I'm Sandra. Funny how it all started with a bowl of soup laced with sleeping pills. "You're totally going to crush this presentation, Jason," cheered my half-sister Margaret, her words still echoing in my mind. How blind I'd been to her fake support all these years. But let me backtrack and tell you how everything went down. At 28, I was living what seemed like the perfect life. My tech startup, SecureSpend, was poised to revolutionize mobile banking security. Imagine an app that could stop fraud before it even happened. That's what my best friend and business partner, Marcus, and I had created after 3 relentless years of work. "Sandra, these investor numbers are insane. We're looking at a potential series of funding of $50 million. Marcus exclaimed, practically bouncing off the walls of our downtown office that morning. "I know, right? Hard to believe all this started in my garage with just us and a few energy drinks," I replied, smiling at the memory of our humble beginnings. While my professional life was soaring, my family dynamics were a different story. Margaret would show up at every family gathering with her sugary sweet demeanor that only I seemed to see through. "Oh, Sandra got the idea for her app from my suggestions about online banking," she casually boasted to our relatives, while I sat there seething but silent, trying to keep the peace. And then there was Jason, Margaret's husband, who just so happened to work for ByteSecure, our biggest competitor. "Such a small world in tech, isn't it?" he'd say with that smirk that never quite reached his eyes. As the excitement built for our upcoming launch event, investors from Silicon Valley were flying in, and venture capitalists were practically fighting for invites. Margaret insisted on being involved in the preparations. "Let me help you get ready. You're going to need all the support you can get," she offered, touching my arm like the caring big sister she pretended to be. Little did I know that her support would turn my world upside down. The night before the investor presentation, Margaret called. "Maybe I should come over tonight. Mom's soup recipe always calmed your nerves before big events," she suggested, her voice dripping with concern. "That would be great," I agreed, completely unaware that this simple bowl of soup would mark the beginning of my nightmare. At exactly 7:00 p.m., the doorbell rang. Margaret stood there, holding a steaming container. "I made it just like Mom used to. It'll help calm those pre-presentation jitters," she said, her smile so genuine it almost made me forget how uneasy she made me feel. But something felt off as she kept watching me eat. "Is there something on my face?" I joked, trying to shake off the weird tension. No, just making sure my baby sister enjoys every last drop." "Mom would have wanted that," she replied, eyes glinting. 20 minutes later, the room started to spin. My arms felt like lead, and my vision blurred. "Margaret, I don't feel so good," I managed to whisper. "Just nerves, sweetie. Why don't you lie down for a bit? I'll wake you up in plenty of time for your big day," she cooed. That was the last thing I remembered before everything went black. I woke up to sunlight streaming through my windows, my head foggy and heavy. I grabbed my phone, 11:45 a.m. My heart dropped. The investor presentation was at 9:00 a.m. sharp. 17 missed calls from Marcus, 28 texts, 1 email from our biggest potential investor. "Due to your unexplained absence, we are withdrawing our interest in SecureSpend." Panicking, I called Marcus. "What happened?" I asked, my voice barely steady. "Just get to the office now," he replied, his tone grim. I rushed in, still wearing yesterday's clothes, to find Marcus staring at his computer screen. Before you say anything, watch this, he said, pulling up security footage from my apartment's hallway cameras. He'd installed them last month after a break-in attempt at our office. The footage showed Margaret leaving my apartment, phone pressed to her ear. It's done. She'll be out cold until at least noon. Tell Jason the coast is clear for the Byte Secure presentation, she whispered into the phone. My blood ran cold as Marcus pulled up another video from a hidden camera he'd secretly installed in my kitchen. It showed Margaret carefully emptying a vial into the soup, her eyes darting nervously. I didn't say anything earlier because I needed proof of something bigger, Marcus explained. Your sister and Jason, they've been planning this for months. I watched in stunned silence as more footage played. Margaret sneaking into our office, photographing confidential documents, Jason meeting her in shadow parking lots, exchanging flash drives. They've been stealing our tech bit by bit. Byte Secure's new app? It's ours. They're launching it next week. My whole body went cold. My own sister? That's not all. Marcus hesitated. Remember when those early investors suddenly pulled out last year? I met one of them by chance, and he told me Margaret convinced them you were unstable, that you'd had mental breakdowns. I thought back to all those family dinners, the sisterly advice, the supposed support. Every memory was now tainted with betrayal. My phone buzzed with a new message from Margaret. I heard what happened. Are you okay? Can't believe you slept through the presentation. I stared at her words, rage building inside me. This wasn't just about sleeping pills or a missed presentation. This was years of calculated betrayal. Marcus, I said, my voice turning to steel, get me everything you have. Every piece of evidence. It's time my dear sister learned what real sisterly love looks like. I was done playing nice. The game she started, I was about to finish it. For the next 48 hours, Marcus and I turned our office into a war room. Screens flashed with surveillance footage, email threads, and financial records. Look at this email from 2 years ago, Marcus pointed to his monitor. Margaret told Investex's board you had a mental breakdown in college. That's why they pulled their $2 million offer. Right after that, Jason joined Byte Secure. It all made sense now. Byte Secure had suddenly started developing features suspiciously similar to our early prototypes right after that incident. A knock on the door made us both jump. It was Deanna Martinez, one of the investors who had walked away. I came to give you a chance to explain your absence yesterday, she said, then noticed the investigation board we'd set up. What's all this? Taking a deep breath, I laid everything out for her. Margaret's sabotage, Jason's corporate espionage, the stolen technology. Diana's eyes widened as she processed the evidence. There's something else you should know, she said, pulling out her phone. I've been receiving anonymous emails warning me against investing in secure spend. They called you unstable and hinted at family concerns. The sender was careful, but I bet the IP address traces back to Byte Secure. Marcus was already typing. Bingo. But here's the kicker. I dug into Byte Secure's finances. Their recent funding round? The numbers don't add up. We spent the next few hours tracing a tangled web of falsified user data and cooked books. Byte Secure's impressive growth was nothing but a house of cards. Margaret and Jason hadn't just stolen our technology. They'd built their empire on lies. Wait, I said, scanning their records. These names, Angela Chen, Michael Roberts, Jessica Torres. They're all former colleagues of Margaret's who suddenly vanished from the industry. More digging revealed a disturbing pattern. Every time Margaret felt threatened by someone's success, they mysteriously faced personal or professional disasters. Angela's promising career ended after sudden health issues. Michael lost his biggest clients after anonymous complaints about his behavior. Your sister's been sabotaging people for years. Marcus shook his head. You're just her latest target. As if on cue, my phone lit up with another text from Margaret. Sis, I'm worried about you. Maybe the pressure of the startup is too much. We should talk. The same fake concern she'd likely shown all her other victims. But this time, she picked the wrong target. I have an idea. Diana leaned in. Byte Secure's launch event is next week. They're about to unveil their revolutionary security features. Our features. What if we set a trap? Marcus's eyes gleamed. I've already started collecting their fraudulent financial records. One anonymous tip to the right authorities. No, I interrupted. We need to be smarter. Margaret survived this long by making her victims look unstable. We need to let her walk right into her own trap. I pulled up the details for Byte Secure's launch event. Margaret and Jason had spent months weaving their web of lies. Now it was time for them to get tangled in it. Diana, I asked, how would you like to play a starring role in Byte Secure's most memorable presentation ever? Over the next hour, we crafted a plan so elegantly simple that Margaret would never see it coming. She thought she destroyed her little sister's dreams. But what she didn't realize was that she just handed me everything. Here's a refined version of your story segment, capturing the climactic takedown and emotional fallout with more polish and dramatic tension. I needed to destroy her carefully constructed facade. Game on, sis. Byte Secure's launch event was packed with investors, media, and tech industry leaders. I sat in the back, watching Margaret and Jason take the stage, proudly showcasing their stolen technology. Our revolutionary security features will change mobile banking forever, Jason announced with that smug grin. But then, right on cue, Diana stood up from the audience. "Excuse me, just one question," she called out, her voice cutting through the applause. "Could you explain how these features differ from SecureSpend's original code filed for patent protection 6 months ago?" The room went dead silent. Margaret's face drained of color, eyes darting nervously. "I have copies of SecureSpend's original documentation right here," Diana continued, holding up a folder, "along with evidence of corporate espionage, fraudulent investment reports, and years of systematic sabotage." The doors at the back of the room burst open as SEC agents we tipped off entered. Jason tried to make a break for it, but he didn't get far, tackled just steps away from the exit. In the chaos that erupted, Margaret rushed toward me. "Sandra, please, I can explain everything." "You mean how you tried to destroy me? Just like you did with Angela Chen, Michael Roberts, and all the others." Angela herself stood up from the audience. "Remember me, Margaret? The unstable project manager you ruined." One by one, more people stood up, Margaret's past victims, all armed with evidence of her manipulations. The room filled with voices of those she betrayed, finally ready to expose her. Margaret grabbed my arm, tears streaming down her face. "Sandra, we're family. Family forgives, right?" I looked her in the eyes, my voice steady. "Family doesn't drive each other. Family doesn't steal and lie. You're not my family, Margaret. You're just another toxic person I'm cutting out of my life." I pulled away, leaving her to face the consequences she so richly deserved. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Byte Secure's stock plummeted as investigations exposed years of fraud. Jason faced criminal charges, while Margaret's professional reputation was shattered. Victim after victim came forward, turning her name into a cautionary tale. Meanwhile, SecureSpend soared. Our original investors returned, offering even larger deals than before. Diana joined our board, bringing years of expertise and genuine support. One morning, 6 months later, Marcus mentioned casually, "Your sister's been trying to reach you again." We were in our new office, 30 floors up with a panoramic view of the city. I glanced at my phone to see another desperate message from Margaret, begging for a second chance, claiming she changed, that she missed her sister. "Block contact. Delete number. Remove from life." Marcus looked at me with concern. "You okay?" I smiled, turning back to our latest project. "Better than okay." Now, about that expansion into European markets. Because here's the thing, some people think revenge is about destroying others, but the best revenge is success, growth, and knowing that the toxic people who tried to tear you down have to watch you soar. They're trapped in the rock bottom they created for themselves. That's not just revenge, that's justice. What would you do if you discovered your own sibling had been secretly sabotaging your life for years? Would you expose them publicly, like I did, or handle it privately? And could you ever consider forgiveness?